Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Ramona. I'm extremely thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast was dedicated to exploring an idea of doing your work in your life with a purpose. And that purpose is having a servant's heart. Because guess what? You can truly make a difference if you focus on that servant's heart. We also created this show to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to make an impact in your world. Wouldn't you want to do that? I know I love to do it every day I can. And my guest today, I just had a conversation with. He's in Alaska, crazy out there, but it's beautiful, I know. But he's going to talk to you about finances and blow you away. So have a pad and paper ready. I want you to think about while you're listening to my guest today, how you're going to serve yourself and how you're going to serve others today and what impact you'll create today. And the word to circle is today, because I hear from the audience all the time. I waited, I heard you, I listened to your podcast, and I waited, and a month has gone by. Don't let that happen to you. Start today, listen to my incredible guest, and then start figuring out how you're going to serve somebody today. And are you looking to grow or scale your business? Well, today's episode is proudly sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners, all looking towards building a thought leader platform to impact and change the world. For more information on Pantheon Alliance, please reach out to me and I'll get you more information. With that being said, finances, as I told the guest earlier, it's affected my life, not in such a good way and not in the way you think, but I've seen it personally, how it can really basically screw you up. And my guest today is going to show you how he doesn't let it screw you up, but he also can make you healthy with your finance. And we'll talk more about that today. And I'll welcome to the show, Chad. Welcome.
Steve, it's a pleasure to be here and grateful for the opportunity to help your audience build and create a more abundant life.
You know, we talked before the show and you really impacted me. Speaking of impact, the pillars you talked about, faith, health, and finance. I'd love for you to talk about that.
Well, so I work in the financial world and we help people create financial independence. And I don't even call it retirement anymore, because really what we're trying to do is get people to a place where they no longer need a paycheck. We call it a job optional lifestyle. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you quit your job. Maybe you move on to a different career. We have people go into full-time ministry. We've had people can maybe start their own business, something they've always wanted to do. They didn't know how to monetize it before. And now they don't need to, because all their income needs are being met from their investments. But if you have a full life financially, but an empty life spiritually, or an empty life relationally, or you don't have your health, all the money in the world doesn't matter. And too often I've met with people who have spent their 30s, 40s, 50s sacrificing their health and relationships to build wealth. And then I meet them in their 60s and now they're trying to spend their wealth to buy the health and relationships back. And Steve, you know as well as I do, it doesn't work. So I just believe that we need to be building those various pillars of our life interdependently, not independently, and making sure that we don't sacrifice what is most important for a little bit of extra money at the end of the day.
Audience, we're coming on strong today. That right there, if you just took that audience and ran with that, you're going to be a better person. How much, that's going to be all up to you. What's interesting, where you live and you're in the financial industry and you got your own company, how has Alaska affected your business financially?
I think just the nature of Alaska, our state attracts people who value independence. You don't move up here because you want absolute certainty and you want every day to look the same and you want to take the the broad highway that everybody else is going on. It tends to attract people that are willing to try something new and different, which is really important because that's one of the things that we ask people to do every day is we dare them to be different. You can't do finances and life the way the rest of the world is doing it unless you're willing to get the results that everybody else is getting. And those results are no good. We've normalized, Steve, in our society being broke, obese, unhappy, depressed. Like that's what's normalized in our society. And if you want to start doing things differently, you're going to have to choose the narrow road. And I think being in a state where independence is valued even more than other places in the country, I think it's allowed us to resonate and connect with people more. Um, and I mean, obviously, independence is important to a lot of people, but it comes at a cost. There's a lot of intentionality and sacrifice required, whether you're talking about independence in your finances, independence in your nation. There is a cost to building and maintaining independence, and we're just surrounded by people who are willing to make that sacrifice, to do the things most people aren't willing to do, to have a life that others don't get a chance to enjoy. And I'm just grateful for it. And yeah, we work remotely with a lot of people too. I mean, we were kind of forced before the whole COVID thing to use Zoom and some of these other things because a lot of people don't know this about Alaska. We have less than one person per square mile.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
Alaska is about 750,000 square miles. And from tip to tip, if you look at the Aleutian chain all the way down to Southeast Alaska, near where our capital, Juneau, is located, from tip to tip, we span almost the contiguous lower 48. It's a huge, huge state. And because we're so spread out, it forced us to do business remotely and do business at a distance. So when COVID happened, we're like, you know what? We're already used to this. We can do this. So now I could go on and on, Steve, but no, it's such a blessing to be here, to do work here, to do work that matters. And now we work with folks all over the United States, which is even bigger blessing. So
Powerful. You remind me of my high school and my college football days. You sound like that coach. You just got me fired up to run out to that financial field and play hard and play strong. I'm ready to go because it's so simple what you're talking about. But the action, right, is hard to take.
yes. Yeah, simple is not easy. Simple
Yeah,
is not
thank
easy.
you.
And too often we add complexity into situations to distance ourselves from the responsibility of acting. Like I need to do more research. I need to do more planning. And I got a degree in biochemistry. I'm all about research and I plan for a living, but at some point you need to act. And too often our knowledge outpaces our obedience. And what I mean by that is we might not know everything we need to know, but we know enough to start making the right decisions, but we don't act on those. And again, this goes far beyond finances, but we have to take the information, the educational aspect, turn into execution. And that's a big part of what we do is making sure people don't just have a plan, but they stick with it and they execute it.
I love that you talked about decision because that's my mentorship when I mentor entrepreneurs that I hear. Well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And COVID taught us you wait, bye bye, you could lose everything. Talk about indecision compared to making the wrong decision.
Well, there's a phrase that says we need to be less worried about making every right decision and work harder to make our decisions right. Meaning you step out into the unknown with the best information you have. But as you step out into this crazy world with that decision, you're going to learn things that you didn't know or things that you might have gotten wrong. You're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to adapt. And let me just give you a brief story from my own life. So I do have a degree in biochemistry. You talk about a pivot going from biochemistry to finance. I thought I was going to be a surgeon. God had a different plan for my life. We can go into that if we have time, but in biochemistry, we came up with thousands and thousands of experiments. And an experiment didn't mean you didn't plan. An experiment didn't mean you didn't prepare. But what experiment did mean is that you don't have all the information. So you're going to take all the knowledge you do have and you're going to try something new. And most of the time when things go the wrong, or they don't go the way that we expected them, Steve, we call it a failure. Well, in biochemistry, we just called that an experiment because we weren't going into that situation married to the outcome. We were committed to learning from the process. And that was so valuable for me as a husband, as a father, as a business person, because when I experience setbacks, my natural inclination is no longer failure. It's what can I learn from this experience? And for people making decisions, you have to be intentional. You have to plan. You're never going to have all the information. You're never going to have a perfect plan. General Eisenhower said, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. So it doesn't mean you don't plan, but you just have to be willing to learn from what you didn't know and pivot through the experience and look at those setbacks, not as failure, but as an experiment. An experiment you're going to learn from, you're going to come back better next time.
Audience, failure, experiment. I'm just saying it again. Those two words change your emotion. I just did an experiment. I moved on to another one. It's much easier to go, hey, I just failed. I lost $100,000. Oh, that's so powerful. That audience, write that down. I'm telling you, I've got it written down. Right there's $1 million tip. Chad, thank you so much for that. I want to dive into faith because faith and finance, I believe, and I know you believe, there's a interdependency, like you mentioned earlier. Talk about that, how you use that with your business.
Well, I believe finances are just a tool. Investments, your mutual fund, that they're just a tool to build independence and abundance in your life. And people really have to know what's important to them because just like any tool, think of a chainsaw. If you don't know what you're doing, a chainsaw can get you really hurt. But I'm sure we've all been to like fairs and uh different exhibits where we got these guys that come up every year to the Alaska State Fair, and they do these carvings like in just a few minutes where they do like a moose or an owl or something like that, a beautiful work of art with the same chainsaw that if you're not careful, it can take your leg off. So point being, the same tool can do beautiful, wonderful things. It can also create a lot of harm if you're not careful. That's all money is. It's amoral. It's not immoral. It's amoral. It is neither good nor bad. It's a tool, but how we use it is incredibly important. And I mean, God knew that, and that's why Jesus talks so much about finances in the New Testament. And I mean, you look at Proverbs. So much of the Proverbs either directly or indirectly relate to money. But Steve, I believe it's bigger than that. It's about stewardship. It's about the blessings we have in our life. And I don't care who you are, what you've been through. Like, we all have gifts. We all have blessings. And I believe each one of us is going to be held to an account for how we use those things. And purely from a financial standpoint, if you look at in America, even somebody that's at poverty level in America is still relatively wealthy by most of the world's standards. So being a steward of what we've been given is so vitally important. And my tool that I teach people how to use is finances. It's not the only tool, but it's a way to I think in my faith to honor God through that tool, but to also bless others. And I try to encourage my kids to look at our blessings, material and immaterial blessings. It's like a river. It's a river that flows through us, not a lake that stops with us, that gets dammed up and starts to stink and pond scum starts to develop. We need to let those blessings flow through us. And I just celebrated my 19th anniversary yesterday, Steve, and just reminded just how much I've been blessed with. I have 6 kids, I have an amazing wife, and not everybody has what I have. So I have an obligation to bring that joy and that encouragement to the rest of the world. And that's why I'm sitting here talking to you today. So that got a little long-winded, but I hope I answered your question.
You did, and you did it with so deeper than I wanted you to do, because I think people shy away from it. And if you're not a faith person, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be. Finances are still part of our life. At least when I trade in the morning, I don't see money going away. I think it's still flowing. I think it's still a river, right?
Well, and it's funny you said that because we have people come to us all the time, whether they're coming to us through Dave Ramsey. We work really closely with his organization or other referrals, and like, I'm not into that faith stuff. And I'm like, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't need to believe what I believe to benefit from my faith. And what I mean by that is you read stuff in the Proverbs, stuff like staying out of debt and being intentional with your relationships and to understand your finances, to understand where your wealth is, and to be patient and to have discernment and perseverance. You don't have to believe in my faith in order for those things to have a huge impact on your life. They've been working for 3,000 years, whether you believe in the faith aspect. So yeah, I don't mean to alienate anybody who doesn't have my same faith, but the financial principles still remain, and they will still help you build a better life for you to impact the people around you in the way that you want to. Um, but for me, my faith and my finances are very much tied
Yeah.
together. Um, eh, eh, from a generosity standpoint, from a stewardship standpoint, and even just as a business owner, it's really powerful because there's nobody else writing my paycheck. God writes my paycheck. Like there's no intermediary between what happens in this crazy world around me. There's no corporation. It's how God directly blesses my business, and um, as you can tell, I'm getting all fired up. It's been an amazing journey.
Uh, I love hearing it because we can never hear too much of it. And it's really, really cool to hear that tool, finance, money, for everybody. You're a Christian, you're a Buddhist, whoever you believe in, whatever you do, whatever gender, it's still, I can't think of the word, it's for everybody.
Finance is a part of your life, whether you like it or not. Yeah,
There you go.
like we talked
Thank
about
you.
before, it can intimidate you, it can be frustrating, like all those things are true, but you can't ignore it, because it is a part of your life, whether you want it to be or not.
Is that something you see a lot where people ignore it, going, I got 100,000, it'll be okay. Chad, don't worry. Not that that's a big problem, but do you see that a lot?
We do, yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One reason I think, Steve, is just in a lot of households growing up, money isn't talked about until it's a problem, until mom lost her job, or dad bought a set of golf clubs that he shouldn't have, or something like,
Yeah.
it's a fight or it's stress. So money is only brought up under negative circumstances. And if you grow up 15, 18, 20 years where finances are always an argument or always a fight or always anxiety, you want to ignore them. They have such negative connotations. So one of the things that we've tried to do in our house is just normalize financial conversations about difficult things, about blessings, and just talking about money so it doesn't become this taboo thing. The other thing that we've noticed is because finances can be intimidating, they can be frustrating. There's so much misinformation out there, Steve, is that people don't know what to do. So they just kind of bury their head in the ground. And we just encourage people, like, there's a world of difference between somebody who is strategically building towards a desired future with intentionality and somebody who's merely collecting investments. I've got my 401k, I got my IRA, I'm saving, but to really win with money and have it produce the impact in your life that you want, you have to be intentional. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to be intentional.
And I love that you said about expert because other thing about money is it's complex. It's not like you walk into a grocery store, give $50 to the grocer, to the clerk, you pay for your groceries and walk out. And I talk to people, even when you don't have money, talk to an expert because they can have you have more money down the road. Maybe it's 1 year, 10 years, but it's being prepared. Is that a lot that you do as well with finances?
I think preparing people mentally more than anything. It's so much a mindset thing. And obviously, yes, preparing financially is important. But if you don't have the right mindset, this goes back to what we already talked about, Steve, execution. If you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to be able to execute consistently. And that's really what separates people who are successful and unsuccessful in relationships, in business, in health, in finances. The people who are successful, they do consistently what most people do occasionally. I'm sure I'm sure everybody that's listening to this has been into a gym at least at one point in their life.
Yeah.
And maybe they go every January 2nd and 3rd and 4th, and then maybe the 8th, and then the 18th, and then by February they're done, right? But it's not the one workout you do on January 2nd. And you could go for, you could climb a mountain or work out for 8 hours or whatever. That doesn't do you a heck of a lot of good. It's those 20, 30, 45-minute workouts multiple times a week for years. That's what changes your life. And the same thing goes with finances. you don't have to be a financial expert. Like you said, there's people that can help you with the nuances of that, but you do have to execute your plan. You you do have to show up every day with intentionality and make sure that you're serving your future self and not stealing from that person. But it's winning in finance. When I say winning, that word can be maybe misconstrued, but having an impact financially and being financially independent has more to do with somebody's temperament and character than it does with their education and their intelligence.
Yeah.
And you can know just the basics about finances and be a phenomenal investor if you are focused, you have perseverance, you have grit, you have discipline, you have patience. Those are the things that we look for. And and that you are chasing something that really matters in your life. Purposeful pursuit is also really
Yeah.
important. If you're only if your desire to build wealth is just for wealth's sake, it's going to be a pretty empty journey. But if you're building wealth to create a better life for you and your family, to impact those in your life that you love and care about, and you have some really key goals around that, it's gonna be a fun chase. It's gonna be a fun journey.
Purpose. That's what comes to my head. Purpose with your money. That's powerful. We're coming to the end here, and it flew by. So, first thing I want to ask, can you come back for part two? A couple months?
Yeah,
There's so much.
absolutely.
I want to talk about mindset. I want to talk about finding the right advisor, because, like anything, there's bad chiropractors, dentists, doctors. You got to be careful. And if you have a bad heart surgeon or a bad financial advisor, they both could ruin your life, and one in a different way than the other. But it's really important to kind of find the basics. Um, I've got a fun question to end this show with. But before I do that, what is Veritas's mission as a wealth advisor company?
To put people in a position where they never run out of purpose or money in retirement.
Okay, I'm really speechless. You added purpose to your mission. I'm assuming that was intentional.
Yes, because I've seen too many people that retired very wealthy, but they viewed retirement as a finish line. And here's the problem with finish lines is you slow down, you stop running. And I believe that when people no longer need a paycheck anymore, when they're at a point in their life where they no longer need their job to live life comfortably, that I believe your biggest moments of impact, your biggest opportunity to give to the world is still ahead of you. And a lot of people view retirement as, well, I've given everything that I need to, or everything I have to, or maybe everything that I can. There's a sense of irrelevance that people experience when they're retired. They get isolated. Um, and I just don't agree with that. And that's why we call it a job optional lifestyle, where I believe people have the best years of life ahead of them. Not so they can have 20 years of Saturdays or 2 decades of endless vacation, but so they don't have the bureaucracy and the stress and the time constraints of a job. Now they are unleashed. They can pin their ears back and go after really what they were put on this earth to do.
God, that's so powerful, Chad. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's awesome. So let's end with this very fun question. So you've got a reservation at a restaurant up in Alaska, table of four. Of course, you're sitting in one of the chairs. In the other three chairs, dead or alive, who would you invite? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Well, the food I would order depends on if it's a Sunday or not. That's Sunday night's the only time I get junk food.
Let's make it Sunday.
We'll make it Sunday. So I'm probably going to have some sort of pasta. And man, like a Cajun shrimp pasta type dish sounds really good right now. Some cheesecake for dessert. The people I'm going to have with me, I'm going to say the Apostle Paul uh, would be one of them. Um, there's a lot that I can learn from him. Um, Dead or alive, I'm gonna say I think Kobe Bryant. I think Kobe Bryant. He had a tremendous work ethic. He was one of even as a junior high student, had amazing focus and discipline. And I wonder sometimes though, if he didn't sacrifice too much. Because I think he always thought, like, I'm going to put in all this time for basketball, I'm going to retire, and then I have my whole life ahead of me. And he didn't. Um, Maybe Denzel Washington. That's another guy that I've always really respected and would love to meet him and pick his brain. He's got a tremendous amount of wisdom. So I think that would be an amazing dinner right there.
I tell you, my audience hears this all the time, but that's a chair. We'll have to bring a fifth chair in because I'd love to hear Denzel talk to the Apostle Paul. He's probably played him in a movie. I don't know if he has, but I'd love to hear that. What a great table. I think that's a blessing. You know, Chad, you're absolutely a servant's heart. You fit this podcast to a T, and you do it with a very complex industry, finances and money. So I want to thank you. We're blessed to have you on the show today. I know people are asking, how can they get a hold of you or support you? How can they do that?
Well, Veritas Wealth Management is the name of our business. VeritasAlaska.com is our website. Don't let Alaska fool you. Work with folks all over the United States, but Alaska has some cachet, so we keep it in the URL. But they can also find us veritas.alaska. And if I'll give you the link to this, but one of the questions that we ask is, people ask all the time, am I on track for retirement? And if they go to our website and mention that they heard us talk on the show, we'll give them a retirement checkup for free and see if they are on track for retirement.
Man, you're a blessing. See, that's what a faith, well, you don't have to be faith, but a servant's heart does. And real quick, you don't have to have faith to be a servant's heart. You can give left and right. Doesn't matter, again, what you believe in. But I always believe, and thank you, Chad, giving away free stuff, giving gifts are what the world needs more of. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for being on the show again. Your absolute pleasure.
Well, the honor's been mine, and I've really enjoyed this conversation, Steve, and be more than happy to come back and continue it with you and your audience.
Hey, if nobody shows up, I will be there because I'm going to learn more from you. And a little selfish plug for myself, I definitely want to do that. So also to audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I say that because when you subscribe, you'll get this podcast, but you'll be able to find it. Because I say, if you find a podcast you really like, you need to listen to it 1, 2, or 3 times because all the tips and advice that he gave you today is powerful. And you might have missed it or didn't hear it right. So go back and do that. Here's the other powerful thing about subscribing. When you get this show, you can share it with family and friends. And I want you to think about, audience, how many of your family and friends are struggling with money right now? That maybe this free little piece of retirement connection with Chad's company could make that all the difference in the world. There you go. Now you can be a servant's heart and giving and helping others as well. And also comment on the YouTube channel. It's going to come out on YouTube right away. If it's comments for Chad, I'll make sure he gets all those comments. Hey, critique this podcast. Me and Chad, it's all about you, the audience. We're here to support you, inspire you, motivate you, educate you. If there's something I could change and make it better, I'd love to do that. And as always, me and Chad want to thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.